and welcome to our Envision Weekly Live webinars. I'm Burcu Gajal, VP of Customer Success here at Canvas GFX. I will be guiding you through today's session. These interactive sessions will guide you through the key tools and workflows available in Envision portal as well as in Envision Creator applications. And my goal is to enable you to create and manage digital work instructions more efficiently and seamlessly. Let me share my screen to show you guys the agenda. Here's our agenda for today's session. We'll be covering shape objects in our Creator application, and we will explore how users can align, group, modify, and annotate shape objects to enhance the clarity for the end users for the specific areas in the documentation they need to be seen and visualizing. We will spend around 20 minutes with a live demo of key features around this topic, and I will reserve last couple of minutes for any kind of questions or feedback you may have. So please feel free to drop your questions or any feedback into the chat anytime, and I will get back to them. Before we get started, I would like to remind you that this is just one of our Envision Weekly Live webinar series. We'll be here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, covering new topics each week to help you get through the most of your trial experience and Envision experience during your trial period. All right, so let's jump into today's session. Before I started with the live demo, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction for the application for those that are brand new to the Canvas platform. So Canvas Envision is an instructional authoring platform that enables our customers to efficiently create digital model-based step-by-step work instructions. An Envision platform includes a browser-based Creator application with an intuitive UI that simplifies this authoring process. And our customers can take advantage of our SDKs to embed the Creator application into their systems, such as PLM, MES, or learning management systems. And in the case of PLM integrations, the CAD data can be directly imported from the single source of truth, and the creator can be notified if there are any changes to the models or the design information in the organization. And the documentation can be also saved in that PLM environment for any kind of version controls and also user privileges. And if you look at it in the mid section on my slide, our platform also includes an easy to manage document management portal with admin settings, user privileges, document permissions, review and sharing features. Like the Creator application, this portal can be embedded into other systems, allowing users to access these documents from more widely used systems like MES or ERP. And the documents can be viewed during or after creation in a browser for an interactive consumption experience, featuring things like customizable dialog prompts, 3D models, and layered actions to be able to switch different types of data, languages, and different type of actions for the end user. The Weaver application can also be embedded into various digital systems in an organization for more widely used reasons. And at the bottom of my slide, as you guys can see, we offer the SaaS version of Envision through Azure or AWS cloud services. We both provide private cloud or government cloud options for our customers. And alternatively, we can also host Envision on our customers' private cloud or on-premise infrastructure if they will need more isolated storage. Okay, so let's dive into our Canvas Envision application for our live demo for today's topic, which we will be working with shape objects in Envision, and we will learn about aligning them, grouping them, and editing them to be able to modify these type of views, especially to create markups and create specific objects to bring the attention of the end users to inside of the documentation. So to be able to find these objects, we're going to go into the Draw ribbon tab in our UI. And you can see over here, we have the drawing tools. Starts with the line tool, and we have as you can see, rectangle tool. We have the smooth polygon. One of the most common ones, obviously, is the Bezier curve tool for those who have been drawing a little bit more complex shapes in Envision. Another one is auto curve tool if you're drawing a lot of polygons and curve shape polygons. And one of the cool ones is also a multigon tool. It's basically starting with a star shape, but once you draw that multigon, Envision opens a contextual ribbon tab. Contextual ribbon tab over here with that shape, and you can change that to be in different shapes while you're working in the content. So for example, I clicked a little bit faster, but we have the frame star, we have the spoke, and any given time you can actually change those number of points that we're creating. So for example, from 5 to 6, and if I wanted to make it to 8, as you can see, I can change that and I can smooth further information, and then we can create pinwheels, and we can further go with the information to create a little bit more complicated objects in here. It's pretty cool. Again, depending on, especially for safety symbols, any kind of logos, any kind of specific shapes that you wanted to create that you don't have the vector objects. And even if you do have the vector objects, you can bring them to Canvas Envision as CGM or SVG file formats. And then inside of Envision, you can modify these objects using these type of drawing tools as well as the multigon tools. Okay, so let's go back to the draw tool over here, draw ribbon tab, and then let's draw an object, a basic rectangle object. To draw an object, you select the comment that you're looking for from the ribbon tab, and then you will see that your cursor will turn to a plus shape, and then holding the left mouse button click, you start kind of selecting the area to draw that object. And then once you have the preferred size of the object that you wanted to create, you release your left mouse button click, and Envision is going to register that object on your screen. And as soon as you finish that, you will see in the draw tab, a couple of comments on the right-hand side will become active, whereas when you don't have the object selected, they will be grayed out, saying that I don't have any object to give you the size, the position, and so on and so forth. But when you have the object selected with your left mouse button click, or as soon as you draw that object, you should be able to see the size and the position and some other functionalities we have that ribbon. So for example, for this rectangle that I just draw, I could see the size. In a lot of cases, you want to change the size of this object because you're basically eyeballing to draw. And then if you wanted to have a specific size in here, one thing that I encourage people when they're creating the documentation to make sure the units that they wanted to draw these objects or create these visuals, they're in the same unit type as your documentation. And if any given time you want to change that, you can always go to the layout and change your units of your documentation. In our case, it's the pixel. And if I wanted to change that to 350 by, for example, 250 to be precise, as you can see, I can change that. But if Envision is adjusting your width and the height, and if your lock aspect ratio is checked the box, it means that it will try to keep that proportional view the way that I created that rectangle. So if you wanted to have specific visual size that you're looking for example, like I was trying to do 350 by 250, you uncheck that box and Envision is going to draw that rectangle exactly with the width and the height that you put it in here manually with your keyboard. And one thing that is important, scale, you can scale outline width. Envision creates an outline of any drawn object, but you could scale that while you're changing these size options over here, or you can simply check that out. And even if you make your object so small, your outline can be scaled, or it could be, leave it as the way that you created in the first place. And the center of resizing, drop down this menu, you can change it to different options in here. As default, it's center, but again, depending on what we want to achieve, maybe you wanted to do top left corner I've seen a lot, or bottom right corner, depending on the requirements that objects that you're trying to create. Okay, so while the object is selecting, the other important thing is the position, especially if you're creating a template or a layout for your documentation. This becomes extremely important on where that specific object is in your document. As a reference point, the default is the bottom right corner, means that starting from this corner over here, but you can change that to be centered. If I move it to center, you can see my position of the reference point is the center, which is right here somewhere, and then the distance between the x and y coordinates are from that point going forward. So in terms of other functionalities in this area, one thing that is extremely common if you ever been using Office products, right click, and then you have at the top options to change the fill color. We have a bucket shape over here. You can change the fill color of this rectangle to anything. And then as you can see, the next one up next to it is the outline color. As default, we have these colors, but in Envision, you can reset these set colors to be blue and black or to anything that you're looking for. And then you can create your resets in here, preferred settings in here as soon as you draw another object going forward. But to change those fill colors as well as the outline colors and the outline like weight and the dashes and the arrows and everything, right click and you will have access to those at the top of your menu. Or while the object is selected, you also have access to those features or those settings directly in the shape styles. And at the top, you have the fill color, which is the same with the right mouse button click menu, contextual menu, as well as the outline in here. One thing that is extra in here that you have the effects. One of them is obviously hue and saturation. If you wanted to change those type of settings in here, the halo or the glow and the reflection, similar to PowerPoint features, we have these in here under the effects in the shape styles in the menu under the draw ribbon tab while the object is selected. And then once you have these settings, you can actually put these as default settings like I was just referring to. And next time when you draw those objects, those settings will be honored. So you don't have to worry about changing them again and again, especially if you're drawing a lot of objects to create a layout, specific boxes and specific sections in your, for example, CAD draw looking documentation. It is important to save these as default. One thing that is pretty cool in Envision is the fill dropper. So if you click on anywhere in your screen, you can actually change the color of these of the shape of those boxes or any kind of shapes that you're drawing to. It's pretty cool functionality. You can simply apply the changes to those. For example, I kind of got inspired from this object and it changed the color of my rectangle over here, basically clicking on this fill dropper. And also I can select anything else in terms of on my screen, for example, the side color or any other colors on my screen that I'm working on. So another thing that I want to mention next to the size and position that we looked at is align. So to be able to have the align feature to give us two object alignment is you need to make sure we select the first object, which is our reference object, and then holding the shift key, selecting the second object. The difference between, as you can see, the first one will have colors inside of those little circles that references the object that I'm clicking on, and the second one will have white circles around it, means that that's the secondary object. And if I go to align and, for example, align these on the left-hand side, as you can see, it will select my first object as reference and it will guide my second one in terms of left alignment, and it will reposition it based on that. If you want to do this, the other way around, as you can see in here, holding the first one and then the secondary object, And now if you wanted to, for example, center these horizontally, holding the first one, like referencing the first object, as you can see, the one that has the filled circles is my reference object, that it actually moves my other object based on that. The other thing that is extremely important is to arrange, especially if you have objects. Let me push this a little bit up so we can get a better example. Let's say I want this object about this object because they're overlapping. What I can do is arrange, and I can here, bring it to forward, or, opposite, send it to backward. And the other cool thing in here is that we added recently as a new feature is send it to layer. So if you're working on a documentation that has multiple layers and you're creating an object to send it to different pages, to different layers, this is a perfect place to go. Instead of doing copy and paste in place to other pages or other layers, it's a very cool kind of like a shortcut that you could do and select that layer to be able to send it to. So let's do that. In this page, let me create another layer, layer 2, for example. And if I select this object over here, let's select the first layer to make sure we have access to these objects. And if I do arrange and copy to layer 2 and hit OK, and if I actually turn off this layer and turn the second layer, which is layer 2, 1 second, you can see that that object also being to copy to that specific layer in the same location. So I don't have to do copy and paste in place to be able to paste it into the exact location into the other layer. And you can imagine if you have a lot of pages and a lot of layers, like for example, you have an English layer and Spanish layer that you're trying to create the visuals for, so you don't have to worry about copying and pasting into different layers or different pages one by one. You could just simply send it to those layers as copied version of that object. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide this layer and show the first layer that we were working on. A couple of more things that I want to share are, let's go to the Draw tab over here. We have functionalities around duplicate. Again, this is very niche, but if you want to duplicate an object, it basically gives you a specific distance that you can duplicate that object to. And what you could do also, if you're creating specific shapes in your layout that requires specific copies with a specific offset, or flipping, if you have, for example, a square or a rectangle, and if you wanted to rotate that 45 degree, you can flip it, and then you can create multiple versions around it to create, for example, clock looking views or any other specific views that you're looking for. Those are pretty cool functionalities that is coming from our graphics background. We've seen a lot of use cases in these, especially for scaling those views. You can create kind of like a domino effect on the objects to be able to create the visuals, and obviously offsetting specific offset distances between these objects. And as I was telling before, flipping these horizontal, vertical, or both axes. So for example, if you want to do vertical and horizontal, it will create that rotational flip directions for us. There'll be so many objects. So this way you could actually create a very cool kind of nicely organized view of the objects that you're working on inside of the documentation. So that is under the duplicate. Another thing that I want to mention is transformation functionalities we have. Let me just click on a couple of objects. Let me delete these duplicates. So for example, if you have this object and then holding the shift key, holding the second object, I can go into the transform feature area under the draw, and then I can visually combine these and draw the areas that I want to visually combine. So now those two objects became one object that I can simply go ahead and right click and say, edit this as path. So now that two rectangle that I was drawing becomes a cool object that I can further right click and edit this as a path and click on these nodes one by one to be able to modify this object based on what I'm digitizing or what I'm actually drawing from scratch inside of Canvas Envision. So one thing that I want to mention, holding an object and holding the second object in here, transform, we can group those very straightforward. Controls G is the shortcut for the grouping, or if you're relying on the right click, it's the same thing. If I do right click, for example, let me go ahead and right click, and then you have an option to do the grouping or make it composite on the right hand click. And as you can see, the size and the position are also in your right click menu, as well as bring it to front, backwards, bring it to different layers in your view, like we were just doing as well, and as well as the alignment functionality. So a lot of features that we have under the draw ribbon tab are also in your right-click contextual ribbon, contextual menu that you could simply get access to depending on how you work inside of the Creator app. You have different ways to go to the same, focus or same functionalities that you're trying to do inside of the tool. Another thing that is extremely important for our users, as I know, once you create the view, in some situations you want to export this as a vector object. Envision is a great documentation tool, but in some cases you might want to just draw something to create vector objects. And if you do, and if you want to take these objects as vector, data, that you can save this as an SVG to your directories and to be able to edit this further or use it in different situations. One more thing that I want to mention is we have a convert option. For example, if you click on this little arrow further, my screen is a little bit too small. Maybe you might be seeing these as a sub menu over here, but you can convert this to paths or convert to Bezier. Convert to paths is basically selects so many points and makes a Bezier shape, and the path is basically makes kind of like a node. Path makes a specific polygon between those two points that you can simply edit it further. And we also have the smart join that you have an option to give a specific tolerance. Just as an example, there's no path in here, but if you have a specific 2-point path in here that you wanted to convert it to a specific using smart join functionality, you can easily do so. And then we can also make it a smooth polygon functionality between those two shapes that we just clicked on. Okay, and in any given time, as I was mentioning before, we can edit these as path, and every point, every node inside of this, the vector graphics becomes an editable point that you can edit. And if you wanted to edit the cusps, as you can see, you can click on those little kind of like circle shape icons, and then your cursor will become a little plus sign, and you can edit it further with the specific angles that you wanted to edit and get access to, like more rounded polygons or more smooth polygons that you're trying to create inside of the tool. And if you wanted to select two, one more thing that I want to mention before I run out of time, if you want to select two nodes, as you can see, you go into the edit path mode, and you select those two nodes, and as you can see that those two nodes becomes like kind of not colored rectangles, and then with those you can do right click and say, for example, you can smooth the points between those only two nodes that we just clicked on, so it gives you more smoothed polygons. And let's do another example over here. For example, between these two, and then I can add a fillet point if you're creating fillets in, like, let's do, for example, 45 degrees. So you can create a fillets around it. So this is extremely important, especially if you're creating kinked lines and then kind of like curves around the polygons that you're working on. The fillets with the right click and then selecting the nodes that you wanted to apply to. Awesome. So that brings us to the end of today's session. And I hope you found this introduction to navigating Canvas Envision creator application using objects, shape objects, and basically working with objects in different features like alignments, arranging, editing those objects, changing the colors, outline colors, strokes, weights, and the fill colors. And basically found it helpful to be able to create inside of our application. So thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, this is just one of the many of our blueprint sessions of Envision Live webinars. We'll be back next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern with another session to dive into different topics, either in Canvas Envision Creator application or the portal application. And if you have any additional questions or need further clarifications, here is my email address. Let me share it with you. Please feel free to write it to me, ask me any questions, or if you are looking for a learning session, we're here to support you, myself and my team. One of us will be with you holding your hands in learning Canvas Envision. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Have a great day.